Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Chris Edmondson, and I'm excited to share some of my experiences and knowledge around the evolution of SIEM in the cloud. So, what do we have up today for this webcast on the evolution of SIEM in the cloud? Here's our agenda for the webcast. In this rapidly evolving landscape of cybersecurity, it's crucial that we navigate the clouds with accuracy, precision, and agility. So, we're going to delve into the cloud-based security, information, and event management, or SIEM, a cornerstone of modern cybersecurity operations. So first, we're going to explore some of the changing landscape of the SIEM and adaptation to the cloud environment as organizations migrate their infrastructure to the cloud. Traditional measures of security just don't necessarily meet the demands of this new paradigm, so we must evolve, essentially, is what we're talking about here. We'll discuss the implementation of cloud-based SIEM solutions, highlighting the importance of enhancing security operations, from real-time threat detection to comprehensive log management. Cloud-based SIEM offers a myriad of benefits, securing our cloud environments. Now, of course, with advantages come challenges. So we're going to examine some of the challenges and advantages of deploying the cloud-based SIEM, addressing some of those concerns such as scalability, data sovereignty, and integration complexities. To illustrate that, we're going to talk about some of the practical applications of cloud-based SIEM. So we'll see some of the use cases out there, from detecting insider threats to migrating external attacks, and show some examples to showcase the versatility and effectiveness of cloud-based SIEM solutions. Looking towards the future, we'll discuss some of the emerging trends and considerations in cloud security as technology evolves. So must us in our security strategies, staying ahead, of course, of those emerging threats and vulnerabilities. Furthermore, we'll delve into some practical validation. I have a tool for you to help you with evaluating cloud-based SIEM solutions, providing some insights into assessing the efficacy and suitability for your organization's unique needs. And as we conclude, we'll wrap up our discussion with some Q&A section. So open up the floor. So let's get started and talk more about what we have here. So first up is this is our SANS cloud security training that we offer. And shown here is the SANS cloud security flight plan. Now I'm going to be specifically highlighting SEC 488, that's the cloud security essentials. So this webcast is based on many of the concepts that if you take that class from the SEC 488 class, I'd like to encourage you to take that class, of course, has much more to offer than just exactly what's here. Now, for those of you who've already taken maybe the SEC 48 class and you're looking for something a little bit higher level, I encourage you to look at some of the other classes, like, for example, SEC 541, the cloud security threat detection, as it relates to the presentation today. Anyway, that's what we're talking about today is the SIEM. So let's just jump into that. And first of all, what is a SIEM? I've already alluded to this. Well, SIEM, what you may ask, what does that acronym stand for if you've never heard of it before? That's the Security Information and Event Management. So at its core, the SIEM is really a comprehensive solution. It's designed to protect your digital assets by doing what? Collecting, analyzing, and responding to security data from various sources. You can kind of think of it as like a big giant data warehouse, a big database, a treasure chest of data to help guard your environment. But let's break it down to the fundamental components. A robust SIEM is typically going to include log collection, parsing, correlation engines, dashboards, and reporting tools. And these elements work seamlessly together to ingest, normalize, analyze, and present security findings and data, enabling you to detect and respond to threats effectively. So why is this shift towards a cloud-based SIEM, you might wonder? Well, traditional security methods are facing challenges like security analysts. They're suffering from alert fatigue. If you've never been in mode before, been in it many times, overwhelmed by all this data, right? A ton of data coming our way. Security analysts need better analytics with better SOC solutions, or security operations solutions, that is, to gather from multiple data sources and narrow down and prioritize alerts with a high confidence level. Right? We need more efficient ways to deal with these sophisticated attacks, and the evolution of SIEM offers just that. So furthermore, with the integration of, I know it's a big term these days, artificial intelligence, or AI, machine learning, SIEM solutions are becoming even more powerful. That's the promise anyway. These detections and help us do with proactive threat detection, help security teams stay one step ahead of attackers. Now, I also suggest, and many others would agree with me, that not only can these tools be used for us, but they can also be used by the attackers as well. So keep that in mind. So let me give you a few concrete examples here. So according to Microsoft's Digital Defense Report in 2023, Password attacks, which come in a lot of different forms, password spray attacks, brute force attacks, and dictionary attacks, as well as detected by Microsoft, they dramatically increased from 579 to more than 4,000 per second. That's huge. They also report that within 72 minutes, that's the median time for an attacker to access your private data if you open a phishing email. Now, on top of that, Microsoft also reported we're seeing a shortage of about 3.5 million skilled cybersecurities worldwide. So we have a huge need to develop more professionals in the cybersecurity realm. Now, in Verizon, their data breach investigations report, Verizon stating that defenders are struggling with fatigue. This is those zero-day exploits that are coming at us, those vulnerabilities from many of our organizations. It takes nearly 55 days on average to mitigate 50% of our critical vulnerabilities as these patches become available. So, as you can imagine, many of the leaders like myself were looking at the promise of AI, machine learning to help recognize things like password attacks, exploits, and other compromises to help us with this response to these types of challenges. And let's not forget about the emergence of cloud based solutions. Moving to the cloud offers scalability, flexibility, accessibility, and making it an attractive option for many of us of various sizes and forms. Right? Here's where it also gets very interesting, and I won't get into this too much, but you may have heard of something called SIMless. It's sort of an intriguing offshoot of the traditional SIM, where we can leverage that wealth of data generated by SIM solutions without the overhead. It's like harnessing the power of SIM without being bogged down by its complexities. For now, I'm going to set this aside. It's kind of a teaser, maybe for a future webcast that I might develop in the future. But in general, SIM is not just a tool, it's a strategic asset in our battle against cyber threats. And with innovations like AI integration, cloud adoption, and other approaches like Simless, we're poised to take advantage of these kinds of things. So, what's it like to actually implement a SIM? So implementing a cloud-based SIEM, first and foremost, let's talk about the importance of planning, prioritizing, and scoping the logs that are most valuable to your business. Now, I will say not all logs are created equal, and identifying the ones crucial for your monitoring and analysis is essential for you. So by focusing on the logs that are most important, you can streamline your efforts and improve the efficiency of your SIEM. So I'm going to touch on some of those that are high on my list. Identity and access management, or IAM, from both an authentication and authorization point of view. So implementing robust single sign-on solutions and integrating with like your LDAP or Active Directory for most organizations, they can bolster your security, of course, by centralizing access control. But you need to be really watchful, of course, monitor those kinds of solutions, minimizing the risk for unauthorized access. So from a logging perspective, we want to know who is accessing what, where, how, and why, right? Those are the kinds of things. Now, endpoint protection is becoming another very critical aspect of our security strategy. You know, you probably heard of some of these tools before. Endpoints are the first line defense against threats. So monitoring our endpoints through comprehensive logging can help us detect and respond to potential security incidents as well. Things like network traffic and flow logs provide a lot of valuable insights into your network activities. So, of course, by analyzing these logs, you can detect anomalies, identify potential security breaches, and take proactive measures against these risks. So, security systems, of course, such as firewalls, intrusion detection systems, or IDS, intrusion prevention systems, or IPS, they also play a pivotal role in helping with our defenses too. So, we want to monitor logs generated by these systems and identify security incidents in real time. And don't forget about your critical applications, of course, and data sources, your databases. That's things like your ERP system, maybe your SaaS applications or databases. We want to log and monitor activities within these environments from your critical systems to maintain our data integrity and prevent unauthorized access. Now, how do we get it there? We're going to utilize things like log forwarders. So with like a simple diagram that I'm showing here, we're going to actually use the different techniques. Log forwarders is one way. We can use agents. We can use pub sub techniques you may have heard of, and even APIs to streamline the process of collecting and forwarding those logs to the SIM platform, ensuring, of course, timely detection and response to security incidents. You can also leverage things like cloud collectors or connectors. That is, they're sometimes called different things out there, connecting to Azure, GCP, AWS, logging functions with many of our SaaS solutions also out there can further enhance our capabilities by integrating in the cloud-based logs out there to enrich SIM data with additional context. Now, to truly strengthen your defenses, it's essential to think both like an analyst and like an attacker. We often joke about that. You know, it's important to think like the good guy and the bad guy, so to speak, to understand the attacker path and adopting that blue team, red team kind of a mindset to help you understand and identify vulnerabilities for your overall security posture. So effective log management, of course, is very important. We want to prioritize and scope the right logs, implementing robust solutions related to IAM, endpoints, analyzing network traffic, and what have you to help enhance your overall security posture against these threats out there. So the importance of SIEM in security operations, I can't speak of this enough. It's like the bedrock of security operations, providing foundational utility, basically shaping our defense strategy. Imagine like you're a security guard sitting in front of a building and you're tirelessly monitoring, activities coming in and out of your building, that kind of thing. Well, the SIM is like that. It's monitoring, it's correlating, and it's analyzing all this vast amount of data to identify potential threats in real time. So one of the key functions, of course, lies in threat detection, investigation, and response. You may have heard of this called TDIR. It's the new acronym out there. So the SIM empowers security teams to swiftly detect anomalies and potential breaches. Enabling proactive response measures with the SIM, investigations become more streamlined and provides you a lot of insights in the nature and scope of security incidents. Now, the SIM also facilitates threat hunting, which is a lot of fun for many people out there, allowing you to adopt a proactive stance against emerging threats. So, by leveraging advanced analytics and threat intelligence out there, security teams can proactively seek out and neutralize risk before they even happen or before they materialize into full blown attacks on your organization. But the SIM doesn't operate again in isolation. Its effectiveness is greatly enhanced through its relationship with other things, such as extended detection and response or XDR. You may have heard it called EDR, similar technologies, identity and access management, I had mentioned before, but there's also this other awesome thing called the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So, of course, XDR complements our SIM by integration from our endpoints, networks, cloud environments, that kind of thing. IAM, as I mentioned before, helps us in that role against access control and identity governance. By integrated IAM, we can enforce granular access and we can prevent things like unauthorized access attempts or user behavior. But ultimately, this MITRE ATT&CK framework I want to get back to is the MITRE ATT&CK framework serves as a standardization, a methodology for understanding and categorizing threats. So by aligning your SIM with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, you can better contextualize threat intelligence and prioritize responses based on your industry, based on your environment, that kind of thing. So a SIM really is an essential modern tool in your security operations, enabling your organization to fortify your defense against these ever evolving threat landscape. So, by of course harnessing the power of the SIM in conjunction with all these other capabilities like the MITRE ATT&CK framework, EDR, XDR, that type of thing, we can stay hopefully one step ahead of the attackers, the adversaries out there. All right. So of course, like with everything, there's we want to understand in the cloud-based SIM world, let's highlight both the advantages and the challenges this brings to the table. So first, let's discuss some of the advantages that comes to the table. Cloud-based SIM is a game changer in the realm of security monitoring and instant response by leveraging the power of the cloud, right? So organizations can elevate their security posture, swiftly detecting and responding to these threats in real time and fortifying their defense. So the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is scalability and sustainability. These are some of the key advantages. So unlike some of the on-premise solutions, cloud-based SIEM offers unparalleled scalability, effortlessly accommodating growth of data. Because this is one of the things that happens to many of us is the growth of data happens astronomically speaking that is. So the scalability ensures that our security infrastructure remains robust, effective, and as your organization expands and more data is being brought in, helps you out there. Also, the cloud-based SIM enables businesses to keep up with the pace with these ever-evolving threat landscapes. So, updates to the system, those kinds of things. So, cyber threats are becoming increasingly sophisticated, as you probably know. It's imperative we have a security solution that can adapt and evolve right alongside the threats that are evolving out there. So, the cloud-based SIM is going to provide you cutting-edge threat intelligence and updates that ensure your defenses are always one step ahead. So, much faster response and agility, that is. However, moving towards some of the challenges, transitioning to cloud-based SIM is not without its challenges. Many organizations have already made a significant investment of some kind to on-premise SIM solutions, I should say, which can pose a hurdle to your migration. So overcoming this requires some careful planning and understanding of the long-term benefits that cloud-based SIM can offer. Now, furthermore, compliance and data retention concerns might arise moving some sensitive security data to the cloud. So we want to ensure that we meet those regulatory compliance and maintain control over data governance, and also other considerations made during that transition process as well. So why would you consider making this leap to cloud-based SIEM? Well, aside from the challenges and advantages, it's really about aligning your security operations center, your SOC, vision, and objectives. So cloud-based SIEM offers many features and capabilities that can empower your SOC team to be more proactive and effective in combating these cyber threats. And with that elasticity, scalability, and sustainability of cloud-based SIEM that are unmatched out there, it can provide your organization with flexibility to adapt to the ever-changing business needs and those emerging threats out there. So while the journey to cloud-based SIEM may provide some challenges to, may present those challenges to, think about the rewards that far outweigh those risks. Embracing cloud technology can help your organization revolutionize their security posture in the face of all these ever-evolving things that are changing in the cyber landscape. So let's take a look at the potential pieces or use cases that might help understand this a little bit more. So exploring some of these use cases, by no means is this all of the different use cases. This is not an exhaustive list. It's just a broad glimpse into several ways organizations can take advantage of the cloud-based SIEM solutions. So first, let's talk about compliance. So for industries like finance and healthcare, compliance isn't just a recommendation, it's a mandate. It's like playing that old school game of Simon Says, where you just basically follow the rules or you're out of the game. That's the way I like to describe it. So for me, compliance is really also about good auditing. And auditing me is taking a trust but verify approach. This is where you test to validate your security controls out there. So consider things like PCI and HIPAA regulations. With cloud-based SIEM, organizations can tackle PCI compliance through robust perimeter security, user identity management, real-time threat detection, securing your data systems, comprehensive auditing and reporting, and what have you. Similarly, in the healthcare sector, SIEM can also help the HIPAA compliance by managing security processes, controlling your employee access, ensuring information integrity, and maintaining strict audit controls, among other crucial functions when it relates to HIPAA. So now beyond compliance, SIEM really, of course, shines in the threat detection, investigation, response, or TDIR, and that's identifying things like compromised systems, detecting lateral movement within your networks, even uncovering command and control communications. Cloud-based SIEMs offer a lot of visibility to proactively defend your environment. So spotting anomalous behavior, swiftly responding to potential breaches, the SIEM can empower your organization to stay one step ahead again of the threats. Now, with threat hunting, which is a lot of fun for many people out there, it's a crucial proactive strategy in cybersecurity. The cloud based SIEM can also enable your organization to hunt down potential threats, analyzing alerts from various security systems, identifying things like environmental anomalies, what's changed, so to speak, in the system, tracking new vulnerabilities, leveraging all that wealth of threat intelligence out there, forming hypotheses of what may come your way or known risk. You can adopt a proactive stance and basically be ahead of the game as far as full blown attacks that might be coming your way. Last but certainly not least, let's not forget about data exfiltration, that nightmare, right? That nightmare scenario for your organization. So this is that rise of cybersecurity threats out there. We want to safeguard our sensitive data. It's of course very critical to us. Cloud-based SIEMs can help also play a pivotal role in detecting and mitigating data exfiltration attempts through things like backdoors, rootkits, accessing cloud storage, which shouldn't happen because we haven't applied, identity and access management techniques, that kind of thing, even through your mobile devices, that type of stuff. So by monitoring things like network traffic, analyzing user behavior and advanced algorithms, that kind of thing, the SIEM can also prevent data leakage and maintain the integrity of your digital assets. So a cloud-based SIEM can offers a set of robust tools and capabilities out there to help you out with these cybersecurity challenges, from compliance to proactive threat hunting and even data exfiltration. SIEM can basically help your organization, empower your organization to safeguard all your assets in the environment. Now, speaking more of the future, while I'm certainly not a fortune teller, I always jokingly say this, I don't have a crystal ball to look in the future. Let's take a bit of a glimpse in the future of cybersecurity, where the landscape is ever evolving, and staying ahead of threats is, of course, so important to us. It's about the convergence and powerful forces that the cloud-based SIEM and other innovative capabilities brought forth by things like, of course, AI and machine learning can potentially help us. In this rapidly changing digital age, Data is constantly under siege by our threat actors out there. They're seeking to exploit vulnerabilities. And remember that Microsoft report I was talking about earlier with password attacks, alert fatigues, that type of thing. Fear not, right? Our cloud-based SIEM is here to help revolution our defense strategies, harnessing that scalability and flexibility that the cloud offers. Now organizations can effectively monitor and analyze a whole bunch of data, these vast amounts of security data in real time. Now, what truly sets the stage for the future is the integration of AI and machine learning into SIM, I believe. At least that's the promise anyway that we keep hearing about. These technologies can empower the blue team, the defenders of our organizations, by providing them unprecedented insights and those predictive capabilities out there by looking at patterns. By continuously looking at these large data sets, AI can hopefully help us detect anomalies, identify patterns, and even anticipate potential threats before they materialize. Another big factor is our user and entities. Our user entity and behavior analytics, you may have heard of this before, it's called UEBA is the acronym, can further enhance our defensive capabilities by analyzing behavior or the behavior that shouldn't be happening with entities within our networks. So by detecting deviations, from what's normal, you need to know what normal is, of course, in this case, UEBA can help you detect when something not normal is happening and help you identify things like insider threats, unauthorized access, and improve, again, our defenses within. Now, of course, I had mentioned this before, the incorporation of frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK, they can help you by standardizing methodology for understanding and categorizing cyber threats. This is helping us by aligning our defense strategy with the tactics, techniques, and procedures that are all outlined in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. We can better anticipate and mitigate evolving threats based on the industry. But again, the future of cybersecurity isn't just about detection. We really want to respond and adapt in real time as much as possible. And this is where this awesome tool comes into place. I always say in class, automation is awesome. So security orchestration, automation, and response, or SOAR, comes into play here. SOAR helps us empower our organizations to streamline incident response through orchestration and automation, enabling us to rapidly and coordinate efforts against these cyber threats. So key SOAR capabilities out there include, of course, that orchestration piece, the automation piece, and of course, how we handle incidents. Along with collaboration tools, we can facilitate communication across several teams, security teams, what have you. A big part of SOAR is using something called playbooks to allow you to detect, analyze, enrich, and respond to these threats at machine speed. Again, automation, right? By automating these routine tasks, we can essentially help the security analysts deal with those things like the password attacks that we talked about earlier. Now, as we look ahead to the future of cybersecurity, cloud-based SIEM, AI, machine learning, UEBA, and the MITRE ATT&CK framework are going to help us out. There's a lot of promise out there, and I'm very hopeful myself, and I know a lot of others are as well, to basically stay one step ahead of our adversaries, ensuring the security and resilience of our organizations in today's world. Now, as promised, um, get to that next slide there. Okay, as promised, I really like checklist. So this kind of gets into the meat of evaluating SIM solutions out there, cloud-based SIM solutions in this case. So I developed a tool. It's basically a checklist in a spreadsheet form, and I'll be getting to that here momentarily to show you how that works. Evaluating cloud-based SIM solutions when you have a need to actually talk to different vendors out there. And they're probably going to do some kind of a vendor presentation. So over the next several slides, I'm going to walk through a set of criteria and major areas for evaluating cloud-based SIM solutions. Now, I always say this with a caveat, please don't limit yourself to what I put together. Please add, remove, modify any of these areas or criteria to meet your organizational requirements as well. So let's jump into that. Another part of evaluating a SIM solution, I really like this idea. Again, I love checklists. They're my go-to. This checklist is not just for the vendor presentation, but I also recommend, highly recommend, that you try before you buy. Take that try before you buy approach. And again, please don't limit yourself to what I'm listing out here in this set of criteria. Make it work for your organizational needs. So let's take a closer look at the different parts of the spreadsheet tool, and I'll go by section and then actually bring up the actual spreadsheet in just a moment. All right, so first up, we'll discuss the web-based user interface for security analysts. We want the platform, of course, to provide analysts intuitively tools for searches and analysis, right? That's what analysts do their best, right? Searching logs based on values of standard fields, even full text searches of logs, comprehensive analysis capabilities. That's what we're looking for. right? We want to have the ability to export these search results into various standard file formats, such as things like CSV or comma to limit type files or JSON. You may have heard of that before, ensuring, of course, the flexibility in data manipulation inside or outside of the tool. More than that, we want to save search parameters for future use. So we can use this feature to quickly access frequently used searches so that the analysts don't have to recreate them every single time they do it. Right? We want them to be able to create even custom alerts based on their searches to tailor their specific needs. And these alerts can trigger things like notifications to things like email, maybe Slack or Microsoft Teams or any number of different mechanisms for communicating in the case of critical events. Now we can shift our focus to the web-based user interface for application administrator. And basically our platform, we want to ensure that the administration functions are easily accessible through this web-based interface, eliminating need for some other software as much as possible, or even potentially command line. Now, for those of you like me, we're not afraid of the command line. Command line is awesome, so that's just an added bonus for some folks out there like me who like to do a lot more automation. So, not to say we're opposed to it, but we want to again make it as easy as possible for people to use in the web-based interface. Now, furthermore, administrators also need to have the option to configure alerts, trigger again those notifications, whether it be via API integration to maybe your support ticketing or case management system. We want seamless integration and collaboration out there as well to basically get the right information to our stakeholders as promptly as possible. Now, last but certainly not least, our platform is going to foster collaboration by enabling our users to save, again, those save searches. Again, you want to share the information with your colleagues. So being able to save them, but also then be able to share those with your colleagues. So again, promoting knowledge sharing and productivity amongst your team with some people have more expertise, that kind of thing. So we're looking for, again, for a platform to offer a comprehensive suite to essentially meet both the needs of analysts and application administrators out there to serve this function. So let's move on to the next major area, and that's administration, governance, and compliance. We're also looking at those areas. Again, this starts with the fundamental need to ensure that your sensitive information remains accessible only to people who need it, only to authorized personnel. We call that the least privilege mantra, right? So through robust role-based access management, security mechanism, we want to safeguard the systems, findings, analytics, guaranteeing being only the right people, only the right eyes, so to speak, have access to their data. Again, our least privilege mantra, right? So by supporting methods like security assertion markup language, otherwise known as SAML, we can federate with these solutions, or maybe with LDAP or Active Directory. We're looking to fortify the SIEM against unauthorized access to our SIEM solution. Additionally, very important to us is the support of multi-factor authentication, which is another layer of defense out there. Integration is going to be key to us. We want to be able to seamlessly integrate with things like Active Directory and other repositories out there, facilitating streamlined management of role and resource groups. More than that, you also might want to have this ability to have asset grouping capabilities so you can automatically or custom define assets of being which ones are the most critical out there, that type of thing. We want to precisely classify and have those asset groups defined for us across our network landscape. Of course, we don't want to forget about the ease of deployment and maintenance. We want our solution not just to be scalable, but also easy to deploy and maintain through its lifecycle, empowering again our security operation teams, taking the load off them to handle some of that stuff handled by the cloud, of course, itself. And of course, we want people to have comprehensive training and professional development so they can actually take advantage of all the different parts and pieces out there in our cloud-based SIEM solution. More than that, we want our engineered solution to minimize the time and expertise to monitor and manage all this large amount of data. We also want our system to be 24 by 7 by 365, high available, fault tolerant, all those kinds of things. Automated, intelligent response, what have you out there. Again, we're looking at improving our security posture out there, all in all. In general, that's what administration, governance, and compliance is all about. And so then what else do we want to look at? We have our architecture and platform. Looking at that, we want it to be tailored to meet our ever evolving needs because things are changing so rapidly out there. Our ideal design goes beyond mere functionality. It's also a strategic framework crafted to address security challenges, also maximizing efficiency and flexibility. So first and foremost, our design prioritizes resilience We understand the importance of eliminating those single points of failure. Again, high availability is important to us. We want this architecture engineer to provide both redundancy without inflating the cost as well, ideally, right? Leveraging cloud-based solutions helps us with that scalability again, accommodating the limited human resources available to our security operations teams and what have you out there. And modularity and scalability come into mind when it comes to that. That's very core to our platform, that ability to adapt and evolve uh, when things change, right? We want it to be able to seamlessly interoperate with our multi-vendor devices, management tools, without compromising robust features, right? So when you're operating in a distributed environment like myself, you want to expand your infrastructure, your platform to be flexible and resilient, and also deal with growth over time. But it's not just about collecting data, it's also about extracting insights. We want the solution to support standardized logging, industry standard threat intelligence, or threat information exchange protocols, things like STIX and TAXI out there, enabling rapid integration with diverse intelligence sources out there. Of course, again, we mentioned this before, but also with ticketing and workflow capabilities, we want to empower the security operations to be able to do things like automation and streamline workflows to different systems like case management systems, help desk systems, that kind of thing out there. And furthermore, you also want to ensure that the platform isn't closed. You're going to want to be able to provide inbound APIs for other integrations with other external tools, allowing you to do things like search, extract, and manage that data effortlessly. So again, leveraging contextual data from security assessment technologies. Some of the ones that we hadn't really mentioned much before is vulnerability management solutions, to be able to incorporate that, or application security assessments as well, being able to take advantage of those in our threat detection and response capabilities. You also want to make sure it's future-proof ready for things like if you've not taken advantage of IPv6 yet, but maybe it's coming down the pipe in your environment, be able to ensure that it can actually be future-proofed as well out there. So it's not just about what's meeting your today's challenges, it's about future-proofing for challenges that might come down the road as well. Of course, we talked a lot about how cloud can help us out, but we also want to be able to leverage the solution to seamlessly integrate with a multitude of cloud providers out there. Things like Microsoft 365, Azure, AWS, Google Workspace, Google GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, Oracle, OCI, even other SaaS tools like Salesforce, Slack, you name it, all of those different kinds of tools out there. Again, don't limit yourself to this list. I just gave these as examples here. You want to be able to you want to have the ability to ingest and parse log data from all these various cloud platforms out there in your operations. Additionally, you're going to want your solution to support and extend beyond the traditional logging methods out there, embracing things and other technologies and other telemetry that is out there from your new cloud services that only rely on APIs. So many of the cloud providers out there provide API access to logs out there. So whether you're monitoring things like Docker containers, maybe Amazon ECS, Kubernetes, what have you, any number of different container technologies, you want to be covered by your solution as well. Of course, security is top priority to us because we're all security folks. We want to see integration with things like the Cloud Access Security Brokers, or CASBs, Cloud Security Posture Manager tools, and what have you out there as well. So by combining all these integrations into the cloud sources out there, we can also, again, empower your organization to not just safeguard the on-premise solutions, but also your cloud assets and data as well. Now, the cornerstone, of course, the core attribute of SIEM is how it handles logging, data, and security event management naturally. So we're looking for a system to be a comprehensive solution capable of collecting, parsing, normalizing, categorizing, and securely storing all this data from all these many sources, whether it be servers, applications, cloud solutions, network infrastructure, what have you, right? Ideally, adhering to a common taxonomy, something like the open source security events metadata is an example for standardization and interoperability within your organization. But it doesn't stop there. You also want to be equipped to handle these vast volumes of data, operating seamlessly with terabytes and terabytes, or even more of information that's stored, all the time. We just keep getting bigger and bigger, basically, right? So our resilience, we want to ensure the data collection continues even in the face of connection loss. So if for some reason you lose a connection, it can actually then resend the information that has been sent away, offering things like compression, data filtering, and bandwidth management to help optimize that efficiency as well. Now, of course, security is paramount. We want to, of course, implement encryption for the data at rest and data in transit, along with things like log hashing to safeguard against things like tampering. We also want to retain actionable data for at least a minimum of 12 months. And I'd say minimum of 12 months, but oftentimes to meet compliance requirements, we have to keep it even longer depending upon the compliance requirements within your organization. Flexibility is key, whether it's collecting logs from supported systems or custom parsers. You want to be able to have that capability for unsupported sources. The system needs to be able to adapt to your needs. And again, that goes back to the checklist. Make sure the checklist meets your needs. We want to be able to ingest audit data from various identity and access management systems, enhancing that anomaly detection and differentiating between the normal versus abnormal behavior. And again, I'll mention this, user and entity behavior analytics, or UEBA, also helps your security posture. So if it's possible in your SIEM, it can actually detect and prohibit unauthorized access as well. Of course, support for Active Directory is a big one for many organizations, or any number of LDAP repositories you might use. And you may or may not have heard of this, but also some of the cloud sources for identity, like Microsoft Defender for Identity, is another example of that. We want comprehensive visibility to our identity and access management systems. Really, in essence, logging data and security event management isn't just about managing the data, it's about empowering your organization, against all these different adversaries out there. So in order to do that, of course, we want to be able to respond. So that's where incident response and threat management comes into play. Pretty imperative to us not only to detect, but also to respond to these threat activities out there swiftly and effectively. So in this area, we're going to assess the solution's capability to correlate and analyze data in close to real time as possible, right? Because the data actually goes from some system into our system, and it's not exactly same time, but as close to real time as possible is what we're looking for. We're looking for monitoring user behavior, application activity, any kind of data flows that can help us detect those anomalies and those potential threats before they escalate. But it doesn't stop there. You're also going to want to integrate with information security components to form some kind of a cohesive defense. So, consuming external threat intelligence, we've mentioned a couple of times now, enabling things like security, orchestration, automation, and response. Remember, automation is awesome, right? Thus, SOAR capabilities, and not just being reactive, but we're being proactive in that case. Don't forget about, again, our endpoint detection and response, our EDR, and our extended detection and response solutions, or XDR. Things like Microsoft Defender for endpoint, CrowdStrike, and many others, of course, that are out there too. Those are just a couple. We can identify and neutralize these threats from those sources as well. Forensics analysts also going to play a crucial role for us in determining root cause of a security incident. We want to be able to dissect those attack vectors and understand the adversary and how they work, their tactics, their techniques. We want to arm ourselves with the knowledge, not only for what's happened today, but also future threats as well. This is where things like the MITRE ATT&CK framework comes into play. But of course, perhaps probably most important, we want to streamline that entire incident management process. Workflow and case management comes into play here. Incidents are tracked, they're assigned, and they're resolved efficiently. This not only, of course, saves time, but it ensures that no threat slips through the cracks, so to speak. Basically, in essence, we want our system to have a good quality incident response and threat management capability, not just reacting, but also hopefully being able to proactively defend against the threat out there. And this involves coordinating data from various sources, advanced technologies, and fostering that culture of vigilance, staying again, hopefully one step ahead of these threats out there. Now, one of the big parts of a SIEM is being able to report and analyze the different information that's out there. So we're going to assess the ability to do this. Imagine a system basically that just basically collects a whole bunch of data. Well, that's great, but for me, metrics matter, right? I want to be able to collect data and information. I want to be able to analyze that data, and then actually, in a clear and logical way, I want to be able to actually deliver that actionable data to those who need it, right? Whether it be executives who are looking towards the future of how to better protect the environment, or maybe the analysts or the blue team or the red team, it doesn't really matter. We want to be able to get that data and correlate it as best we can to find, again, the root cause or an analysis of those security events. Addressing issues, right? That's what we're looking for. More than that, we want to be able to have it be able to provide reporting templates that are related to the various regulatory compliance frameworks and security best practices. I named some of them here. There's quite a few others, of course. FERPA, if you're working in education, PCI DSS, HIPAA, the CIS, critical controls, whatever regulations you need for compliance, this is what we're talking about. We want to be able to have that reporting capability. And that's not all. We also want role-based access for these dashboards, these reporting capabilities out there, so that we ensure that only people who need to have access have the access. Again, that goes back to our least privilege mantra out there. So, plus, again, I'll mention it another time, user and entity behavior analytics can help us detect those anomalous activities to help you with those, deal with those threats as well. Additionally, advanced contextual security analytics can help us with UEBA, again, right along with our threat intelligence to provide insights to these potential risks out there. Now, it's not just about analysis, it's also about optimization too. We want to provide operational insights I mentioned before, streamlining things like workflows, auditing, and compliance reporting. We want to make that as smooth as possible. Again, PCI, FERPA, HIPAA, GLBA, and beyond, we want it to be covered in our solution as well. Ensuring things, again, I'll mention it another time, long-term storage and event storage to meet our compliance requirements. Not necessarily just for a year, but even potentially longer than that if we need to. And for those of you like me who like to forecast the future as much as you can for strategic initiatives, that kind of thing, we'd like our system to help us with forecasting needs for the future, those kinds of things, using algorithms to help us anticipate some of those future trends and threats out there. So again, reporting, analysis, and analytics capability is not just about reporting data, but it's also empowering you, giving you the metrics you need to safeguard your organizations both now and in the future. All right. So one of the key features, of course, also is it needs to be able to support multiple operating systems, network devices, virtualization, and application integration. So when it comes to security operations, we really want a comprehensive solution that covers everything possible out there. So this includes having the power to ingest and analyze network flow and flow data based on our organization's routers and switches in real time, those kinds of things. Complete visibility to all of our hosts and traffic on the network. Again, giving you actionable insights to tackle some of those network security issues head on. So we also want that solution to further support ingestion and parsing of things like container management environments, which has gained in a lot of popularity out there. Things like Docker, Kubernetes, Rancher, you name it out there as far as containerization. So we're talking about seamless integration across all these different container ecosystems, right? Of course, virtualization still very much popular out there. Whether it doesn't really matter if you're using VMware or a cloud solution, you could be using Zen, maybe you're using Hyper-V. It doesn't really matter. Again, modify this list to meet your organization needs. We want to make sure it covers that. Now, when it comes to operating systems and network devices, we're looking for the vendor to be agnostic. It doesn't matter if it's Windows Server, Red Hat, Cisco, Juniper, everything else out there, of course. We want our solution to be able to support that via things like agents. I had mentioned earlier on APIs or even system logging, syslog, often referred to as out there. We want to, of course, provide the granular control over these system changes, individual users, and we'll have, again, that mantra, again, of least privilege. And I know I've mentioned it at least more than a couple of times, but we also want our system to support authentication, authorization, and accounting, otherwise known as AAA, related to identity and access management from sources like maybe you're using a single sign-on solution like Okta or Ping Federate or Active Directory. It doesn't really matter. There's many out there. We want to be able to support those as well, of course. Naturally, identity and access management are very important to us as far as access control goes. Now, database and application level access as well. We want to make sure our system can perform to meet our application level database activity monitoring and what have you out there, including any third-party databases out there that you might be using. Maybe you're using Oracle, maybe you're using Microsoft SQL. It doesn't really matter. Maybe you're just using any number of different databases out there. We want to make sure that we can actually safeguard this critical data with confidence. All in all, what we're looking for is a solution to support operating systems, network devices, virtualization, application integration, all backed by hopefully as close to real-time possibility as much as possible. Again, helping us with our security measures out there. Now, like I said before, I'm going to show you the spreadsheet. So for those of you who haven't seen this yet, you can download the spreadsheet here. I think they put it in chat. So if you haven't seen that yet, feel free to download the spreadsheet tool itself. And I'm going to bring the spreadsheet up and kind of walk you through the spreadsheet again in real time. So let me pull that up here on the screen. And so again, going through all these different major categories, if you want to change these, of course, that's what this is meant for. In the example I provided out on the tools website for SANS, I provided actual ratings for each one of these, and as just an example here. But I'm going to first jump to the second tab here, and so you may or may not like this, but I just put together a very simplified Likert scale from 5 to 1, meaning 5 is outstanding, 1 is unacceptable. I also marked some of the requirements that are listed out, the criteria based on an asterisk, which is I'm calling it required, and a hyphen meaning is a nice to have, as an example. I've also put another tab in here for commentary. So maybe you just have some free form text you want to talk about each of the vendors you're evaluating out there. I put a sample set of rules of engagement whenever you're working with vendors out there. I kind of modified this from when I used this before, just so you can kind of get a gist of how to work with vendors out there. But in general, the scoring piece is probably the most important piece, of course. And again, add and remove as much as you want. And as you add and remove, of course, you'll have to update the scoring as well, just to know that. But I'm going to scroll down, and because I've already gone through each one of these sections, I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom here, and I'm going to show you that basically what I have is a total points for each of the vendors. So in this case, I have multiple vendors I'm evaluating. SIM vendor 1, SIM vendor 2 across the board. I have multiple evaluators that evaluating. So I like to have at least 3 or 4 evaluators myself. It helps from an evaluation point of view, keep us as honest, so to speak. Get a total points, and then of course just a percentage based on each evaluator. And then at the very bottom, it automatically calculates this. So of course, again, if you do adjust or add or remove criteria from this list, you'll have to adjust the scoring as well. I'm pretty sure I'm saying this correctly. I think I had 122 requirements that I put together in the case of my evaluation. But in general, that is what the spreadsheet tool is all about. So I hope you find that to be helpful to you as you start to work with evaluating some of the SIM vendors out there. All right, you get that back out of the way. All right, so just a quick wrap up here, and we'll get into some Q&A here in a moment. In a rapidly evolving cyber realm, cloud-based SIEM, of course, it's a game changer for us. It really empowers our defenders to tackle these modern threats head on. By focusing on key areas, again, I'll mention identity and access management, endpoint protection, our critical applications, network monitoring, and what have you out there. And embracing all this innovation that's available in a cloud-based solution helps us with this dynamic landscape. Cloud-based SIEM really isn't just an option from my perspective, it's really vital for holistic security. I will say this again at least a couple of times. Please use the checklist. Automation is awesome. I've mentioned that before. Remember all these kinds of key things. If you're curious about learning more about this, I hope you'll join me for the SEC 488 class, the Cloud Security Essentials class, and I'll show that here in a second again for those of you who missed that earlier. There's of course lots of other classes out there. We want you to continue to learn and grow and navigate the cloud security landscape. And it's my goal, of course, is to help you through that process. And I want to know if you have any questions, of course. So I'm gonna ask if we'll pop up the Q&A here in a second. But first, I'm just going to jump to the next slide, which is again the cloud security curriculum to give you again the idea. So I've been talking a lot today about the concepts within the SEC 488 class, the Cloud Security Essentials class. If you happen to have already taken that class, of course, there's a variety of other classes out there that are related to this. And I had mentioned the one, SEC 541, the Cloud Security Threat Detection, really aligns a lot to the topic of conversation that we had today. And one more just quick marketing thing before we get into the Q&A. SANS also offers, of course, lots of webcasts out there. I highly encourage you to attend webcasts. But also, we've been providing a lot more workshops, these hands-on workshops. So this is a workshop that's being made available, I believe, next Thursday. Hopefully, I got that right, by one of my colleagues, Ahmed. And so if you get a chance, please feel free to take advantage of these hands-on workshops freely available to you, and hopefully you can learn some from that. But of course, you know, lots and lots of information out there. We try to keep you up to speed as far as the different knowledge out there. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the questions and answers. We have about not quite 10 minutes or so, about 10 minutes left. So it looks like I got a question from Jan. Let's see. I'm going to grab the Q&A here real quick so I can see it better. All right. So do you distinguish between cloud-based SIEM and SIEM SaaS, or you mean also SaaS here? Yeah. So software as a service or SaaS, I'm talking the same thing. A very good question, Jan. So cloud-based SIEM, I would refer to that as a cloud-based SIEM would be exact same as a SaaS type of solution. Um, it just happens to be it's very focused, of course, in this case, the software as a solution service as being a SIEM product itself. So good question. All right, and I've gotten this question before, so I'll go ahead and maybe respond. There are lots of cloud-based solution vendors out there, and by no means is this an exhaustive list of the different vendors that are available out there, but Microsoft Sentinel is one, Cortex, XOR, which is by Palo Alto is one, Google Chronicle is another, Splunk has an offering for cloud-based SIEM. Elk or Elk Stack has their cloud-based SIEM. There's Sumo Logic, their Exabeam. There are many. CrowdStrike has one. There are many of these vendors out there. And what I'll say is that the purpose of the checklist really are to help you evaluate these different SIEM vendors out there. Again, I will say try before you buy is a very important thing, at least from my perspective, to help you find the right solution for your organizations. They're not all created equal. So some people have a preference towards other solutions just based on what they support. So just something that might also help you out there as well. Any other questions? Also, I want to say thank you to Hayes. He's been helping me out behind the scenes, posting the links to the various references out there, like the Microsoft Defense report and also the Verizon report as well. So just to name a few of the references out there. So please take advantage of those. All right, got another question here. What do you think of SIEM as a service whereby a service provider does the analysis and reports instance? Yeah, so and hopefully I'm getting your name right. Hopefully I'm gonna get this Ravon. I'm gonna pronounce it that Ravon. So your question is a great question here. So what I think you're kind of referring to is more of a managed service that helps you with the analysis and the reporting. It's also a MSSP or a managed security service provider would probably be the case there. And that's actually fairly common in a lot of organizations where essentially you're outsourcing your SIEM or your security operations itself to some other organization, some third party organization to provide that analysis and reporting of incidents, that type of thing. So hopefully that answers your question. And then Jan has another question here. What is recommendation for minimum retention time of log data in a SIEM? Oh, great question. So for me, a minimum of a year myself, this is what I think. However, go back to your compliance requirements. They're going to set the rules as far as how long do you need to keep or retain information out there. Yeah, good question. So yeah, definitely look back at your compliance requirements. All right, we have another question from Joey. Can you tell me more about Chronicles? Since AI is huge and many analysts do not seem to have good knowledges, or why not leveraging AI? It's a very good question. I would recommend that you go out and look at Google Chronicle and evaluate it based on the list, of course, that I provided earlier. Google Chronicle is just one of many of the SIMs out there. I don't have a ton of experience with Chronicle itself, so I can't speak to all its capabilities. So I would recommend you go try it out and see what it can do for you. Now, from an AI perspective, I agree. I think it's huge. I think it's going to be a huge game changer for us out there because it's going to help us look for common patterns for things like password attacks and vulnerabilities out there. I think there's still a lot to be learned about how the promise of AI and machine learning is out there, as I said before. So, um, you know, it's hard to say exactly what the future holds, but I'm very hopeful my day-to-day work that AI and machine learning can help us out. So hopefully that answers your questions. Also, another shameless plug for my friend Ahmed. Definitely take advantage of these hands-on exercises out there. In this case, chapter 3 there are other chapters already out there, by the way. So if you for some reason you missed some of these hands-on exercises, If you go out to the actual website, this ACE 135 website that's listed here, the SANS.org/ACE 135 website, there are other workshops out there available that have been pre-recorded, already recorded, and you can still follow them. If you'd like to be there in real time, of course, that's what a med's going to be there for as well. All right. Any experience with logarithm Axon? Any known issues or concerns you've heard about the platform? I don't have experience with logarithm directly. Um, I know of other people that have used logarithm. I'm not familiar with Axon itself, but I will say this, and this I think this is still true. Hopefully, I'm not saying something that's not true here. My understanding is there's a merger between Exabeam and Logarithm as of recent. That they're going through some kind of a merger, so it'll be interesting to see how that merger plays out as far as between the two different companies, Exabeam and Logarithm. That's about as much as I can speak to those companies, only because I just happen to have just recently seen that I shouldn't say acquisition; it's a merger between those two companies. So but definitely I would go back to again, use the checklist, try before you buy, check out these vendors, add and remove criteria from the list. I mean, sky's the limit. I mean, I think I've given a pretty good framework for how to work with the different vendors out there, but definitely take advantage of that. All right, so we have another question from Nicholas. See, SOAR was presented as part of SIM. Is it that or a separate product or service? It can. So that's a good question. So oftentimes SOAR will be a product or feature set within many of the SIM providers out there. So it can be part of a SIM as like an add-on purchase or an add-on module. Sometimes it's just part of the SIM itself. When you buy the SIM, it's just a feature set in the SIM, and sometimes SOAR is actually completely separate. So I have seen some companies out there have actually sold SOAR technology that's literally outside the SIM as well, because you can use orchestration automation inside or outside of a SIM. So there are companies out there selling SOAR technologies in that case. It really both. It could be part of it or separate. Good question. All right. Hold here for another minute or so. But again, yeah, definitely take advantage of some of these webcasts out there. Hope you learned a lot from today's webcast itself. I'm still kind of, holding here for any other questions, but got a minute or two left. But otherwise, just want to say thank you all for joining me today. Really appreciate it. I also will tell you that, if I didn't answer your question, or maybe you want to get a little more in depth on a question, you can totally hit me up on LinkedIn. Last time I've given a presentation that helped somebody because they were looking for a little more detail. Happy to do that too. So please feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. Again, take advantage of these webinars, these webcasts out there. For those of you who need continuing education, CPE credits, that kind of thing, I think it was just mentioned in the chat. Take advantage of these kinds of activities too, as far as keeping up with what's out there. We all learn in different ways. Could be via webcast, could be full-blown courses themselves that SANS offers, you name it. I highly encourage you to take advantage of all these different resources available to you. All right, so it looks like Hayes put up my LinkedIn. Again, if you have any additional questions after the fact, please feel free to reach out. It's been a joy to be here with you today. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and say we're done, close it out. But again, thank you again for your time. I hope to see you at a SANS conference in the future. If you happen to see me, say hi. Enjoy meeting people. It's probably one of the biggest joys is interacting and forming relationships with others out there in the cybersecurity landscape. All right. Take care, everybody.